want you to write this in your notes. An objection is a question. An objection is a request for more information. That's all it is. Here's what it's not. It's not a roadblock. It's not confrontation. It's not them saying no. It's none of those things. It's simply them going, slow down, I want more information, help me to understand. I've got a question. That's all it is. When you treat it like it's a question, you feel differently. One of the things I've always taught to you guys is the process of selling is the process of transferring an emotion. Here's where we struggle in sales. We try to make everything too logical. Right? When you have a lot of confidence in what you're suggesting to someone and a lot of conviction, they share that confidence. So when you look at an objection as them saying no or being confrontational or an obstacle, your energy is like defensive. That's a bad energy to be in if you're trying to influence somebody. But when you're looking at like, oh, they're dancing with me, this is part of a dance, and they're just asking for more information, they just have a question, then it's sort of fluid and non-confrontational, right? I don't know, if you've ever seen me dance, it is a little confrontational. But for most people, it's not, right? So there's two types, the minor objections, which are defense mechanisms, which I've already described to you guys, right? It's just automatic, it's reflexive, okay? Next slide. Tell you blah, 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 blah. Objections aren't sales killers, they're sales makers. If you've ever sat down with a client and gone through any kind of a presentation and they had no questions, if you've got a little bit of experience, you pretty much know you're doomed. You're doomed. If they're not asking any questions, if there's no objections, they have zero interest, you're pretty much doomed. Right? So you actually want them to stop. You want them to ask questions. You want them to have what we call objections, okay? That helps you. They won't buy because they don't care enough to challenge the price, for example, right? The more that they're asking questions, the more that you know, okay, I'm building my way towards a sale. Next slide. Make the handling of objection an integral and expected part of your selling sequence. All right, write this in your notes. Before you handle every single objection, here's what I want you to do. Say thank you.
Thank you.
Say thank you.
Thank you.
Say thank you.
Thank you.
Write that in your notes. As soon as they give you an objection, the first words out of your mouth should be thank you. Why? Because of what I just said. The fact that they're giving you an objection shows that they're paying attention, they're listening, and there's a level of interest there, and you want to thank them for that. Number one. Number two, saying thank you gives you a moment to sort of pause, take a deep breath, and think of, okay, which of the responses is the most appropriate one here. Number three, and this is, I think, probably the most important part, it shifts your energy. You're not in a defensive, confrontational, oh no, what am I supposed to do now? When you say thank you, it puts you in a state of appreciation, a state of gratitude. That energy shifts their energy. It lets them know, hey, it's totally cool to have objections. Totally cool to ask questions. This is a dialogue. I'm not trying to convince you to do something. I'm trying to influence you. And there's a big difference between convincing and influencing. So by saying thank you after every, thank you. Hey, that's a great question. Thank you. You know what? I had the same question when I first took a look at this company. Thank you. You know what? I've had a lot of other people ask me the same thing. It just changes your energy, and it changes their energy, and changes the whole nature of the appointment. Next slide. The reason objections have been troublesome with you is that you haven't gained an understanding of what they really are, and you haven't learned the fundamentals of having them. Next slide. What's a condition? Who remembers what a condition is? What's a condition?
Stop or you're, it's something you can't do.
So a condition is a legitimate reason that they can't move forward. In other words, the guy wants to join the business, but he has a felony. Is that an objection or a condition?
A condition.
The guy wants to join the business, but he doesn't have enough money. Objection or condition?
Condition.
It's an objection.
Oh.
It's an objection. They're making you think it's a condition. It's just an objection. Right?
Okay.
Come on. Come on. Of course they can, right? The guy wants to move forward, but he needs to check with his wife first before he spends $100.
Objection.
Yeah. Do you check with your wife when you're at the grocery store before you make the purchase? Come on. It's $100. Grow up. Put on your big boy pants, right? So a condition is a legitimate reason. Could something health-related be a legitimate condition for not moving forward with life insurance? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yeah. Good. Right? But you've got to understand the difference between the two. You're good. Next. Oh, if no condition exists, and they don't buy, they don't set the appointment, they don't agree to be a guest, they don't join, whose responsibility is it?
Mine.
Whose responsibility is it?
Mine.
Whose responsibility is it?
Mine.
Who won?
They did.
Not really. Not if they needed the product, not if the opportunity would have helped them. They didn't really win. They might have won the conversation, but they lost big time as far as the real results and what that means. Okay? So you've got to take the responsibility of helping them. The better you get at the words, the less you feel like you're a pushy salesperson trying to convince. When you feel like you're a pushy salesperson trying to convince and you pull back, it's because you don't know the words. Not because they don't have a need, not because you don't have a sincere desire to help them, okay? Where are we? Okay. This is like I said thank you. What did I say?
Thank you.
I understand how you feel, Hope. I can appreciate your feelings, Lily. I couldn't agree with you more, Warner. Right? Obviously, you have a reason for saying that, Dean. Would you mind sharing it with me? These are all just sort of cushioning transition phrases, and I'd write them down. They're all good. And the reason they're good is because of the energy, the way they acknowledge. Here's what you don't want to do, and oftentimes people do this, is somebody's got a question, a concern, an objection. Where's Isabel?
Yes.
Real quick, please. I'm going to capture those and put those up there. You've got great handwriting. Yeah. Okay. Yes. Just quickly, though. It can be sloppy for you, and that'll still be better than anybody else. It changes your energy right away, and when you change your energy, there's an old saying, right? Keep your friends close, and your enemies closer, right? And so, for you to influence somebody, the stronger your rapport is, the stronger your connection is, the easier it is to influence them. Unless you're married to them. Then that rule goes completely out the window, right? You want to be able to pull the prospect in close to you emotionally. You want them to trust you. And so these phrases help you a great deal because it slows things down. Next slide. It's okay. That's a great question. Thank you for asking. I'm glad you asked. You know I get that question often. I completely understand. Thanks for the feedback. That's an interesting question. That's an interesting... Okay, I want you guys all real quick. Think of the most common objection that you get, whatever it is. Say it out loud. Say it out loud. What's the second most consistent objection you hear? Say it out loud. Say it out loud. By the way, if you're having trouble thinking of the objections that you hear, that means you're not talking to enough people. Not that you're like that great, right? You're not talking to enough people if you're not getting objections. What's the third most objection that you get? Say it out loud. Say it out loud. Say it out loud. Okay, real quick, partner up with somebody. Partner up real quick, real quick. Decide who's A and who's B. Decide who's A and who's B. Okay, so B, so listen to me. Person B, you're going to go through those three objections. Person A, here's all I want you to do. Hey, that's a great question. Hey, thank you for asking. I just want you to use one of these transition statements after each one. Person B, give them your three best objections 2 times in a row. So give them objection 1, then objection 2, then objection 3, then back to number 1, then back to number 2, back to number 3. And I just want person A, I just want you to get great at just going, oh, thank you for asking. I was hoping you'd ask that question. I had the same concern. Everybody clear on the instructions? Nice and loud. Let your outside voices out. I want to hear some energy. I want to feel it. Have fun with it, but get good at it. Let's be intentional. Go.
What are you doing? We help people make better restaurants.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to be there.
Once person B has done switch rolls, obviously go through it 6 times. Switch rolls and go through it again. If you finish early, keep going, keep going, keep going.
Really busy.
Raise your hands if you've both gone twice. Raise your hands if you've both gone twice. Keep going, keep going, keep going. Raise your hand when you've done gone twice and keep going, keep going. All right, let's circle back. Circle back. Circle back. Good job. That was great energy. What'd you learn?
That it felt strange. It felt strange at first, just to go through and just to respond with a question or a statement back at them.
Right.
It was just like you said. It felt awkward.
What about it felt awkward? Just out of curiosity.
Because I go through a process in my head.
That's what I was afraid of.
Yeah. I go through a process in my head, right? Because it's not a reaction. It's not a reaction yet.
Right. Right.
So it's just like anything else.
Good hope.
When I was giving my objection, speaking of feelings, it felt better when Louis thanked me and then went to a blah, blah, blah. When he says, I completely understand, and then leaves the thank you off, it was weird. And so I need to start like putting in thank you, like thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. It sounds crazy, but it felt better when he said thank you.
It does. Feelings are important, aren't they?
Yes, they are.
Facts aren't important. Feelings are. It's 2019. Facts don't matter. It's all about feelings, right? Isabel.
It's good to do the I thank you and then all that because you stop being defensive.
Yes.
Yeah.
You've never had an issue with being defensive, have you, Isabel?
Oh, never.
Isabel. Who else? Let's have a bunch of hands. Christine.
The more we did repetitively,
Right.
whatever that word is, the smoother she got, and you can even see it in the eyes.
Yeah.
To where it was like, oh, that's a great question. So it was, the more we did it.
And here's what we call that. She's now, her body is now becoming congruent with her words.
Yeah.
And that comes through practice when you actually begin to believe what you're actually saying. Right? Like sometimes, you know, those of you that are married, sometimes your spouse says something, you say something back like, oh sure, I'd be happy to, and you don't mean a word of it. They know you don't mean it, right? Because they're married to you. But you get to a point where you're congruent, it's like, wow, right? John.
At the beginning, I was kind of nervous, but then as we went through it, I felt that, hey, I can do this.
Yes. Yes. Good. It's also easier to be nervous when you're talking to a pretty girl. So yeah, just anything that helps to squash your nerves a little bit is helpful. Who else?
I was gonna say,
You weren't talking to a pretty girl, but go ahead.
a pretty man.
You would have made it.
No, He's so natural, he's done it so many times, and it's just like, that whole idea of being awkward doesn't exist when he talks about it. It's just like, oh shoot, like, you caught me in the, it's more of, I realize when you give an objection, it's more of them, you say, it's a question, and when he gives you the answer right away, it's like, oh shit, I don't know what to do now.
You're leading, and the other thing too is you're not throwing punches back and forth. You're like, I totally understand what you're saying. I remember I dealt with the same thing.
Yeah.
Right? And this is what I found, and this is what I did, and kind of stuff. If it was spouse, let's be with her. I don't want you to move forward until we actually meet with the spouse. Are you comfortable with that? Yeah, let's get started. Let's go.
Why is Steve Adams so unbelievable with clients? Because he's just like so relaxed. No matter what the client says, it's like he's heard everything, nothing surprises him, nothing rattles him. He's just like, seriously. And so that makes clients feel safe.
And he doesn't have to close to pay his mortgage. Like he's been doing business and that type of stuff. When you need it, it's hard. When you come to that.
Preach, Steve.
Who else? Any other feedback? Can I tell you one thing I picked up, and I'm hoping some of you picked up?
Yes.
How many of you, when you were reciting your top 3 objections to the other person, as you're reciting them, you go, this is the stupidest thing I've ever heard of. Like, did the objections feel stupid? Like, right? That's part of it too. I want you to realize they're stupid. But it's just that they don't go through training, so they can't think of anything smart to say. So don't be mad at them. Just, like, understand, you know, that's just the place they're coming from. They're trying. Okay? If we get them here to our trainings, we'll teach them better objections. Okay? So, next slide. 6 steps. Okay, I want to skip this one because this is I want to keep things simple. I think this is a little bit more sophisticated. We'll get back to this one in a couple weeks. Next. But you know what? So stop right there. Just basically, just conceptually, there are points worth covering. Hear them out. So somebody gives it. You ever do this? You're with a really good friend or something, and they start to say something. You finish their sentence for them.
Yeah.
Don't do that with prospects. It's really rude and obnoxious.
Right.
Right? When you start to answer their objection before they've even finished speaking, you talk about them feeling pressure and feeling rushed and you being pushy. You start answering questions that they haven't finished asking yet. Yeah, not good. Okay, so just be patient. Let them say the whole thing. Let them say the whole thing. It just gives you more time to go, okay, see where we're going with this one. Thank you. Right? And then a good thing to do too is to feed it back oftentimes to make sure that you heard it right and you understand what they're saying. Sometimes just by saying thank you, listening to them and feeding it back, sometimes it'll go away on its own. Because they realize, nah, that's not really, no, that was, I don't know why I said that, that was dumb. Because they'll realize it was just an automatic reaction. So, just hearing them out and feeding it back. The other thing is, when you feed it back, you know how I said you want to like have strong rapport and strong sense of connection with people? There's a tendency that we have, it's the prideful part of us that wants to make people think we're smart. It's the ego. That if Kim says something to me and I repeat back what she said to me, there's a tendency of I want to change the words to show her how smart I am. Use their words.
Okay.
Just like we talked about, we're creatures of habit.
Right.
The words they use on purpose because they're words that they like. They feel good about. Use their words back at them. Not similar words, their words. Does that make sense? And it creates a stronger sense of connection because they just feel more like you're like them. You get them. Right? So, yeah. Yeah. Here's what they're not going to do. They're not going to be offended because you're mimicking them. I promise you that's not going to happen.
They recognize that?
No, because you're using some of the best words in the world, and the only reason they know they're terrific words is because they use them all the time. Yes. So let's go on. I don't want to go through this whole technique because we just got to get better at the basics and then build up to this. Go on. Go on. Changing gears. Okay. This is not in the same order that we went through the other day. All right, well, let's just get started there. This is good enough. Back up to where we were. Okay, so how many of you have heard, I'm not really interested in buying anything? Where does that typically happen? When do we typically hear this?
First outreach.
First conversation, so typically we're calling them, and what's our intention in calling them?
Guest
or setting an appointment.
Right.
And oftentimes when we're leaning towards the appointment, the response is, well, I'm not really interested in buying anything, or I don't want to buy anything, or we don't need anything, correct?
Right.
Okay? So, the response is simply this. Oh, I know. That's the last thing I'd ask you to do. Now, by the way, if they're going to buy something from you as soon as you get there, do you ask them to buy something as soon as you get there? No. When do you ask them to buy something?
The last thing.
At the end, yeah, so it's literally the last thing you're going to ask them to do. Right? It's literally the last thing. So you're being like completely sincere and genuine. Right? Because after you ask them and they say yes, you don't ask them anything else, right? You're like, okay, great. Okay, so it's, oh, Kim, I know you don't want it. It's literally the last thing that I'd ask you. Right? If you see something that you like, that's fine. At this point, I only need your opinion and some feedback. Here's what I say. I still say this all the time. Like, hey, that's the last thing I'd ask you to do. Look, the whole purpose of the presentation is just for Kim to get training. That's it. Matter of fact, if you wanted to buy something, I wouldn't even have applications with me to be able to do that. We have no intentions of asking you to buy anything on our first appointment. That's not the way we do business. So I'm just putting them at ease, right? So what they're saying is, I don't want you to come because I'm afraid you're going to try and get me to sell me something. I'm afraid you're going to try and get me to buy something, right? Is that a legitimate concern? Yes. Why would they be interested in buying something when they have no idea what we sell, the quality of the products, whether or not it fits a need? Well, of course they wouldn't have any interest in buying anything. How could they at this stage? But we're just trying to set an appointment to do a presentation. Right? So, work with me. Okay, well, I'm not really interested in buying anything. Out loud. Oh, I know. That's the last thing I'll ask you to do. If you see something that you like to take advantage of, that's fine. At this point, I only need your opinion and some feedback. So what do you do better for you? Does that feel like integrous to you, honest, genuine, sincere? You feel comfortable saying that? I'm not tricking anybody, right? So let's go to the first sentence. Oh, I know that's the last thing I'll ask you to do.
Oh, I know that's the last thing I'll ask you to do.
Again.
Oh, I know that's the last thing I'll ask you to do.
Again.
Oh, I know that's the last thing I'll ask you to do.
Say it like you're speaking to a real client this time.
Oh, I know that's the last thing I'll ask you to do.
One more time like you're saying to a real client.
Oh, I know that's the last thing I'll ask you to do.
First and second sentence like you're saying to a real client.
Oh, I know that's the last thing I'll ask you to do.
First and second.
Oh, I know that's the last thing I'll ask you to do.
First and second.
Oh, I know that's the last thing I'll ask you to do.
First, second, and third.
Oh, I know that's the last thing I'll ask you to do.
Third only.
At this point, I only need your opinion and some feedback.
Third only.
At this point, I only need your opinion and some feedback.
Fourth only.
So they would be better for you.
Fourth only.
So one day would be better for you.
Third and fourth like you're speaking to a client.
At this point, I only need your opinion and some feedback. So one day would be better for you.
1 through 4.
Oh, I know that's the last thing I'll ask you to do. If you see something that you like to take advantage of, that's fine. At this point, I only need your opinion and some feedback. So one day would be better for you.
1 through 4.
Oh, I know that's the last thing I'll ask you to do. If you see something that you like to take advantage of, that's fine. At this point, I only need your opinion and some feedback.
Need a volunteer? Somebody please stand and give it your best shot without looking.
Oh, that's the last thing I'll ask you to do. If you see something you want to take advantage of, that's fine. At this point, I only need your feedback and your opinion and some feedback. So which tastes better for you?
Ew. No.
Help them out. Help them out.
If you see something you'd like to take advantage of, at this point, I only need your opinion. So which day is better for you, Tuesday or Thursday?
Great. Give it up for William. Who else wants to give it a try?
Real quick. Okay. Oh, I know. That's the last thing I want to do. At this point, I just want your opinion and your feedback, and I want to know if I can come back.
It's going to be a little bit crunchy, and we're going to make mistakes and things to giggle about as we're learning. That's how we learn. But what's important is you're in a safe environment. It's okay to trip and fall down here. And you're never going to learn to walk or run without tripping and falling a bunch of times. So don't be afraid of the tripping and falling. Be afraid of not putting the work in. Be afraid of not putting the work in. So A's turn to B's. I want each one of you to do it 3 or 4 times back to back. But here's the thing. Do it try and do it as much as you can without looking. The other person, if they see you getting stuck, can maybe give you the first 2 words of the next sentence. But try and be in a relaxed state like you're on the phone. Imagine yourself on the phone talking to one of your prospects that you've already called. Go ahead.
More videos. Is that what we need? This is probably the shortest I've ever got in my life. I wasn't worried. Yes. Oh yeah?
It's almost the exact same. I literally sent out an email when I was starting. I said almost this one. Practice this, and if you're doing that, well, you need to learn to
Circle back. Quick reminder, you guys. You coaching each other about what you should say or could say, or this situation, that situation, is not getting you better at scripting. It's not getting you better at the words. It feels good, but it's not actually working, okay? It's like talking about hitting versus getting in the batting cages and swinging, right? You need more swings, not more discussions about swinging, right? It's like in the church, you need more time with, right, the King of Kings, not more time just talking about him, right?
Right.
I can see Louis was already adapting this. He was like, well, we'd love for you to come and be a member of our church. Oh, all churches want is your money. Oh, that's the last thing we're going to be asking you for, right? So, what did you learn? Feedback from going through that. Feedback with your neighbors.
Louis and I, we tried, because when you don't, we added literally, when you said that, I know, that's literally the last thing I'll ask you to do.
Yeah.
It reminds me that I'm in on the Joe, and it puts me more powerful, because when you leave the
Which is
literally
that
out, it,
funny state, right?
it does.
Yeah.
And you're not so like, you know, Tuesday, Thursday, I gotta pay my rent.
Right. Actually, Tuesday would be better because rent's due Friday.
The memorization of the words really wasn't working, or it doesn't. It's the concept.
Right.
Grab that first word, be able to say the concept, and now the words start to line up. But what I did right now was trying to memorize what the word started, and I was in my head.
Sure.
So when I thought, you know, be cool, you know, you're not buying them. If you see something, that'd be cool. But right now, I just want you to look. You know, who can I come?
We're always in our head until we've said it so many times. I want you to just think of it, like, simple example. How many of you, if you're driving home today and a certain song comes on the radio, you'll know all or most of the words?
Oh, yeah.
Did you ever set that out as your goal? Like, man, I gotta learn the words to this song. A lot of money for me, potentially, if I learn the words to this song. Is it possible the words that you know to the song are longer than 4 short sentences?
Yes. A lot longer.
And is it possible they're not even like this kind of like English? Like there's all kinds of like colloquialisms and like, and yet, so you have the capacity to memorize word for word. And once you do that, like think about this: any great performer who's singing on stage, they're reading a script. It's a scripted song. You don't think about that because they're performing, and it's like so ingrained in who they are. You don't think. You watch your favorite actor or favorite actress, you're not like, oh, they're really good at reading the words to this. Because they've practiced the words exactly so many times, they're able to be like, you guys were talking about, like congruent. Like their body language comes out like they just own it. But that's only through a lot of repetition, not talking about the words, but actually repetition. Robert?
On that same theme, if I don't ever say at this point, because I'm comfortable saying right now, would that be okay, or is there still something more magical about at this point rather than right now? I need your opinions.
No. So the truth of the matter is, when I think the benefit of memorizing the scripts is that once we memorize them, things are naturally gonna get a little bit here and there, but we're not thinking about it. It just naturally flows. Just naturally flows. So for most people, getting like repeating enough times to really get the words down, it's easier for them to flow with the concept. I think sometimes when people don't practice enough to get good at the exact words, and they rely too much on the concept, they're too loosey-goosey and all over the place. You know what I mean? Because the interpretation of the concept can be a little too free-flowing, and then the other challenge that you run into, you can do that, but what we're trying to do is build a duplicatable business, not a personality-driven one. So the fact that you may be able to just like, I got the concept and I can do the concept good enough every time to get a result, as you're building a team of people, that might not work for all of them. Yeah. So it's a great question, though. If you get the concept and you get a ton of results with the concept, and I get a ton of overrides from you get good, I'm not going to be upset with you at all. Zero upsetness, okay?
I just wanted to say in the beginning, I did that too. I tried to make the script my own. Right. Because it felt awkward. But I had to retrain myself because later you end up coming across it, making it your own. So if you don't start out with the right foundation, you go way off track real fast.
Many people.
Many people. Well, if you're doing it, what you let the person, the prospect, is now directing you, is what ends up happening. When you get the foundation down right, you're always learning to be in control of the conversation.
For sure.
You know, otherwise it's easy to let them take off track.
The first sentence, you're already in your mind, you're already closing.
What do you mean by that?
You're already saying, well, I know that's the last thing I'm going to ask you to do. You're already knowing that that's where you're
Right.
because you're trying to get a little
And it's good to be goal-oriented.
That's a good way to start.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Who else? Somebody else said. I saw some other hands.
Yeah, I definitely felt the same way that dealt with wanting to try and make it my own because I've done this a little before. But The other thing I was focusing on was trying to be, like you said, in the present and not, and I was having a hard time turning the mirror because I was trying to think, be in the present, you know, when I'm with anyone, I want to be.
You can't be in the present until the words are like secondary mastered. Yeah, yeah, it's hard to. But when you do it enough times, then that's where you make that transition. Back when I was doing the business and Jason was teaching me this stuff, we used to always say, there's 3 phases to learn this. There's awkward in the beginning. Did it feel a little bit awkward at times today? Yes. And you go from awkward to mechanical. Mechanical is like you're in your head, it's like this, then this, then this, then this. And then you go from mechanical to natural. But I think where you're going to fall short, you may be able to get away with because of your gifts, but you're going to have troubles building a team of just going from, I heard it, let's make it natural. Like you literally have to go through the 3 steps to get to natural, right? So it's just important to be mindful of that. And know that that natural, I'm present, is once I've gotten it to the mechanical stage, and then that's where I'm progressing next. Good. Any other feedback? I'd like to go one more. I'm not sure if we'll have time. Let's go. This isn't one of those things, is it?
I got that.
So, okay, so I want to sort of give you guys a preface to all of these, especially all these related to making phone calls and inviting a guest or setting up an appointment. This is important. I want you to listen to this. Every question that they're asking, there's a question behind the question. So the question they're asking on the surface isn't always the real piece of information that they want. Here's what I believe the question is behind most of these questions. Yeah, is this credible? Or am I going to waste my time? Is it credible? Am I going to waste my time? People don't want to waste their time. People don't want to go down a path where they question the credibility of something. So when they're asking a lot of these questions, that's what they want to know. Am I wasting my time or is this credible? So is this one of those things? No, it's not. I've done quite a bit of research. The company is part of one of the largest financial services companies in the world with assets of more than, what are we, 550 now? I did this presentation a few weeks ago. We've grown since then, right? Blah, 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 blah. So let's get started. First one. No, it's not.
No, it's not.
Is this one of those things?
No, it's not.
Is this one of those things?
No, it's not.
Like you're talking to a real human being, not like you're shouting at them. Is this one of those things?
No, it's not.
Is this one of those things? 1 and 2. Is this one of those things?
No, it's not.
Hey, is this one of those things?
No, it's not.
Really? Is this one of those things though?
No, it's not.
Do just the third sentence. Is third sentence. Again, third sentence. One more time, third sentence.
The company is part of a large financial services company.
1, 2, 3. Is this one of those things?
No, it's not. I've done quite a bit of research. The company is part of a large financial services company.
1, 2, and 3. Is this one of those things?
No, it's not. I've done quite a bit of research. The company is part of a large financial services company.
It's really 550 million. Let's skip this next sentence. It's just not necessary. I don't want to waste words. Let's go straight to.
I can assure you.
It's not one of those things that would include me. Those last 2 sentences.
I can assure you it's not one of those things.
Again.
I can assure you it's not one of those things.
One more time.
I can assure you it's not one of those things.
From the top down, skipping this sentence that we already skipped. Is this one of those things?
No, it's not. I've done quite a bit of research. The company is part of a large financial services company.
Again? 5 times back and forth. I go, then you go. I go, then you go. I go, then you go. 5 times each. Ready, go. I don't want to buy anything. Switch gears to the other one. I don't want to buy anything.
I don't want to see anything in the last
I'm not really interested in buying anything. This isn't one of those things, is it? This isn't one of those things, is it? I'm not really interested in buying anything. All right, let's bring it back to center. Did you realize how good we're really good at this when we started going back and forth there at the very end in the last 2 minutes? Like, not perfect, but it's like, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. And when you're doing these things, the cool thing is in the beginning, like, you can literally have these scripts sitting right in front of you. But knowing them, so that you're not just reading them and you go, oh yeah, boom, and then you see where to get yourself started, you'll just make the transition even smoother. What'd you learn? Feedback. Practice? Now remember, here, I'm glad you brought that up. You're only allowed to practice during our pre-organized meetings here on Tuesdays, Wednesdays. You say, no practicing on your own, no cheating, no trying to get ahead of the rest of the class. Okay? Very important thing, Salini. Other feedback. 2 minutes. If you have a guest, get ready.
Well, don't tell them we're going to set up our own podcast.
Any other feedback, Robert?
But dependencies,
practice was to read a script, you know, or to memorize it. When you said talking to somebody else, my speech slowed down a lot, and I was way behind everybody. Yeah. You really slowed down. You better than things pause. You know. Oh, that's the last thing I'll ask you to do. If you see something, you know, and not. Oh no, that's the last thing I'll ask you to do. If you see something that. So I think in the practice lecture that it said that's where your natural rhythms come in. Well, please remember the same word.
That's a great point. Because I'm very deliberate and measured in my tone and conversations with clients when I'm working through client type stuff. Because like, even if I know where I'm going, like, it's just I want to take my time, I want them to process, I want them to follow with me, not doing it at them. That's great. Who else? Did you have your hand?
No, but I was just going to say that the funny thing is that you're going back and forth, by the fifth time, he purposely closes, and I was able to say the whole thing without looking at it.
That's awesome. Give it up for her. Imagine if you practice 5 more times, or 10 more, or 50 more times, how automatic or reflexive. Anybody else?
I had a question. So you're going through a 4-sentence answer that you've got in your head. Your client interrupts you partway through, and that I'm afraid of that throwing people off as they're learning to do this. So what's your?
It's okay.
Give me the next tip.
It's okay. Like if they interrupt, it's okay, because once again, I'm not doing it at them or to them. I'm having a conversation, and that's part of a normal ebb and flow. And it may be that they switch gears and go to something else, and that I don't need to address this anymore because it wasn't a real concern anyway. It was sort of reflexive. So it's okay. But the more we practice, the less you're going to be in your head and worried about where I'm at in a script or a conversation, and it's going to be more natural. Jason, from Jason to Jason.
I was just going to say that the first set of things were acknowledging people's questions.
Yes.
It actually is a nice buffer to move into these other objections. So it's not so much of an objection. You're encouraging, reinforcing the question, and then feeding it back in the form of an answer. So it's a good process to kind of work through.
Because we want them to bring every concern out. If they're hanging on to a concern, they're not going to buy. Right? Yeah, and it's once they get them all out. So you literally do want to thank them. You want them to want to get that stuff out. And it's amazing, like, when you've been doing this long enough and you're paying attention, like sometimes people are like, oh no, everything's good. Do you have any questions? No. And if like you can just tell by their body, and you just like keep prying and digging a little bit, and all of a sudden it's like all this stuff comes out. Like you were never gonna see them again. There's so much stuff inside there, but they're just not like dumping it on you. So you want them to feel comfortable sharing that stuff. You want to pull it up. That's super important. Super important. I want to share one thing with you guys. Real quick, I just got this text, 10:04 this morning. How many of you know who Daniel Holt is?
Yep.
Okay. SMD first year, ringer by the end of his second year. And I think he'll hit $250,000 legitimately this year, 3 years into the business. He said, 4 personal guests this morning, 3 direct new recruits direct to him this week. He's got 3 directs this week and 4 personal guests this morning. Why? He's good at the words. When he got started in the business, like, there's so many things that are, I need to get a license, I need to do this, I need to do that. Like, master the fundamentals, get great at the foundation. Daniel Holt will never struggle to make money in this business ever. Because he got good at creating activity, he got good at the words early on in the business. He doesn't have to get good at it now. He mastered it in the beginning when you're supposed to master it. Does that make sense? So I just want to really continue to encourage and tell you what's possible for you. It's possible for you to really master these things in a short period of time when you really decide that that's what I'm going to do. And then it's possible for you to really build a great foundation, create activity easily and quickly, and you can do it as a part-timer. You don't need to be full-time to create a bunch of activity. You don't need to be full-time to get great at the words. You just don't. So we're going to continue to work with you guys on this. I loved the amount of energy and participation and how people were going back and forth. I really loved the way you guys worked at it today. I think you guys did a terrific job. So give yourselves a round of applause. By By the way, I just closed all you guys on class. In case you were wondering, right? I just closed you, right? But that's part of the game. It's all about us influencing each other and the people around us. So appreciate you guys. There's guests. Let's have a great mozone for the guests. My base shop, let's just hang back here. My wife's ordering food, and I've got some specific stuff to take you guys through. As soon as we're done clearing out here. We'll give it 15 minutes or so at the base shop.
Can I say something? No. What would you want to say? But don't actually say it, but what did you want to say?
Don't actually say what I want to say.
Right. But what is it that you wanted to say?
This was the greatest American in the history of mankind. He's actually a great intergalactic human being.
Okay, walk away now. So. Yeah, intergalactic?
I sound great.
Yeah, you walk it through.
Sam, I'm gonna leave the card. Yeah.
Yes, they are still moving.
I know, that's what I was worried.
I know.
That works.